Hey guys, it's me again. So I want to give a quick shout out to 3 people who I've been recently talking to about starting my YouTube channel who really helped me out in their own way. The first being Cuddle of Death. It really meant a lot that you actually responded, and I do hope that you do watch this video. It'd mean a lot to me. The second is Azumitsu. Make sure I'm saying that correctly. I'm sorry, Ozzy, if I'm not. It was really fun battling you. I hope we get a rematch because I really want to beat you. It was really funny watching you beat Ace Trainer Liam a few nights back. And the third person is Professor K from the Pokemon Evolutionaries. I'm so glad you liked the stalker cards, and I'm glad that it was able to help you in your deck. But I did not forget about N, and I have a special surprise for you. It's upside down. There it goes, right side up. Still backwards to you, but N, this is for you. It's going to be sent to you for my birthday. I've already talked to Professor K about it, and I hope you enjoy what I'm going to ask you to do. Well, today's video is going to address the top 10. Top 10 things that annoy me that people say about being dyslexic. Now, again, this is my opinion, and if you are dyslexic or you have a learning disability and I don't have something on the list that you feel should be on the list, leave a comment below and tell me why, and why does it annoy you so much. Number 10. Well, you could always use spell check. Okay, my spelling is horrible. I can totally attest to that. But spell check doesn't work for me because of how I spell. I spell phonetically. And since not all words are phonetic, it won't pick them up. Or when I do there, T-H-E-R-E or T-H-E-I-R, I don't know the difference in the context. So it doesn't help me to try to use spell check when I myself cannot see it and the machine does not understand that it's not working with somebody who has normal spelling issues. My issues are much more extreme. I have had incidences in essays where I've had people read it and they're like, why are you spelling awesome, A-U-W-S-O-M-E? And I'm like, isn't that how it's spelled? And they're like, no, don't ask me to spell that word because I cannot spell it to save my life. I've tried hard to learn how to spell. That's why I didn't use Dragon until I got into college, because I wanted to learn on my own. And it was a long process, and I can tell you spell check, even in text, does not work. I mean, there is a program I have on my computer right now on Google Chrome called Grammarly's. It is an amazing program you can just install as an app on Google Chrome, and it does help, but not all the time. It helps me more with words like doesn't, to remember to conjugate it, or if it does not in the situation, or if I'm using the wrong version of there, it tells me, which is amazing. For anybody who's on my Facebook, you can tell, yeah, my grammar sometimes on my Facebook posts aren't great because even if I spell check it, I'm still missing something. And my mom will call me and be like, why did you post that? It's not correct. You need to use voice to text, which is something else I'll talk about later on. But spell check for a dyslexic does not work. And it's really annoying to have multiple people come up to me and say, well, you need just to use spell check. I've tried. I wish it did, but it doesn't all the time. Number 9. You must read everything backwards. I have no idea where this myth started. I do not read stop backwards as pots or God backwards as dog. Funny story, Florida's seal actually had God spelled backwards for a while and it said dog. So I used to joke that a dyslexic made that just because it's a common thing people say all the time, but we don't read things backwards. Instead, we will miss a phrase or two or we'll miss words. So if I'm reading something aloud, it's very choppy. But if I am reading to myself, I can understand the information perfectly. I don't spell backwards, I don't read backwards, I don't do things backwards most of the time. There are a few exceptions to that, and that's just in math because my brain's wired differently there too, where I can do everything in my head, and it used to annoy my math teachers to no end. They're like, write down your work. And when I'd write it down, I'd get it wrong, but if I did it in my head and I verbally explained it to them, I'd get it right, which didn't make a lot of sense to them, but I did have a math teacher who was also dyslexic, and she really helped me with this process, but even she used to get the comment, you must read stuff backwards. I don't read backwards. I read the same as everybody else. The difference is I skim read. I quick read. So if it takes you 3 days to get through a book, it may take me maybe 2 days, and I will still understand the book. I just read it at a faster pace because of how I read. And it also varies from person to person with dyslexia, how long it takes them to read a book. So don't go by my judgment of 2 days for everybody. But guys, dyslexics do not read things backwards. I hated the movie Anchorman because of Will Ferrell quoting being dyslexic, I have sex daily. I had people quote that at me for the longest time, and it used to just annoy me because they didn't understand the actual struggle I had, and it was made light of. And I understand Will Ferrell's character and like what they were trying to go for, but it wasn't very effective. In a way, it kind of made me hate that movie and that movie franchise. I still to this day refuse to watch any of them because of that fact. So let's move on to number 8. You must have issues with directions. No, I can find my way around very easily. If I go to a place once, I will remember how to get there for the rest of my life pretty much. I have gone back to Tampa, and I haven't been there since I was like 8 or 9, and I remembered exactly how to get to my uncle's house. Yeah, sometimes I have to do left or right, and I have to look down at my hand and see which one forms the L, but so does everybody else. I am very good at directions. I can find my way around a city. You give me a map, I can find my way around anywhere. That's how I survived living in London. I lived right off Oxford Circus and Trafalgar Square. I lived right next to the National Museum, and I used to walk down there every day. I used to walk all over London. I went to the National Portrait Gallery by myself. I went to the museum. I could find my way around very easily. Directions are not an issue for people with dyslexia. Even though we get things backwards sometimes, like we'll reverse an N or a D in the word and. I've done it before where I put ADN instead of A and D, but we do not have issues with directions. We can tell which is north, which is south, which is east, which is west, left, right. We can do it. It's just some people are just bad at directions in general. So I hate when people say, oh, you must be horrible at directions. No, I'm not. I'm also not bad with languages, and this kind of also plays into the direction thing in a way, because there's a myth that dyslexics have issues with language. No, I don't have an issue with language. I can speak Spanish better than my brother. I haven't done it since high school, but it came easier to me than my brother. Same thing with my mother and my father. It came easier to my mother, who is Italian, than my father, who is Irish. So we never really had that cultural language. Well, I was able to adapt to Spanish very easily. The only thing is my spelling. Yeah, don't ask me to spell hable, no hable inglés. I was horrible, but at least my Spanish teacher online was very understanding about it. And I also took sign language in college. I can still do sign language. I can't show you right now until I get a tripod where I can have both hands, and I can show you some of my sign language skills. I haven't used it since I graduated from college, but still have it. Number 7, and I kid you not. Can your dyslexia rub off on me? Dyslexia is not an illness. It can't be passed along. I don't know how many people have asked me that, and it's not very often I get asked that, but I did have a group of people one time ask me, oh, you're dyslexic? Can it rub off on other people if they are around you too much? And I just looked at them really funny and confused because I've never been asked that, and that was when I was in college. This was a group of college students. I mean, they were in class with me. And I was never quiet about being dyslexic. Yeah, I used to email the professors a month in advance of my classes to be like, hey, I have a learning disability, here's my 504, here's my accommodations. And I was talking to my professor after class, and I'd said something about, yeah, being dyslexic as a historian sometimes sucks, but I can get through it. And he was a very good professor too, he just retired from FSU. But one of the girls heard me, and after I walked out, she's like, so you're dyslexic? And I was like, yeah. She goes, well, can it rub off on other people? Have any of your other friends caught dyslexia? And I looked at her really, really funny, and she was totally serious. I thought at first she was joking. But no, dyslexia cannot be rubbed off on other people. Other people cannot catch dyslexia. You are born with it, or it comes from a traumatic brain injury. When I went to see the psychologist last time I got my IQ checked when I was a senior in high school, he made the joke to me that I was over the limit where they'd start looking for brain damage. Normally, if you have 5 points in the gap between your verbal and written IQ, that's when they start looking. I have a gap, I think it's 25 points between my verbal and written, which is a major gap. You don't think it is, but it is massive for any IQ. So no, guys, dyslexia is not a disease that can rub off on other people. Number 6, this goes back into the backwardsness. Do you spell backwards or write upside down? No. Some people do present that way when they're young children, so around 4th or 5th grade you'll start seeing that behavior. But after that, normally people adjust and you don't really write backwards. I mean, I can fully write and I don't have issues with writing backwards as much as I do just with my spelling. And I've never had the issue where I wrote something backwards or letter backwards or a number. But my form of dyslexia is 1 in 1.5 million, where other people who are also dyslexic that I know, they presented by writing backwards, so their cases were caught much earlier than mine. Mine was caught in 5th grade because I never wrote backwards. But normally, after you hit about 5th grade, you'll see that behavior drop off because you'll start seeing tracing books and people working one-on-one, and the child has overcome it. As an adult, most of the time you will not see somebody write backwards. When I was teaching, I did see one example of this, but it was an undiagnosed case, and it was one of those extreme rarities, but it's not very common for dyslexics to write upside down or backwards. Mirror writing is not common among dyslexics. Number 5, do I see things backwards? No. It'd be really cool, but no. I know this video is going to be backwards, but it's because I'm filming on an iPhone. I do not see everything like a film on an iPhone. I see everything like it is. The only difference between what I see and what I write down sometimes is due to a stigmatism I have, a tracking stigmatism that does not fall in the dyslexia. It's a tracking stigmatism where my eyes will move back and forth really, really fast and at the end of a sentence. So when I'm taking notes, that affects me there. But it will never be caused by my dyslexia. Dyslexia does not make you see things backwards. It does not make you read things backwards. It does not make you write things backwards. Those are the 3 things that really group together that annoy me to no end. Number 4, does this mean you have brain damage? How does it happen? Okay, to the first part, yes, dyslexia means there is technical brain damage because you're over 5 points on the IQ, but no, it does not mean I have brain damage. Most of the time, people are born with dyslexia. We don't actually know what causes it. It could be genetics or it could be a traumatic birth. For me, I don't know what it is because honestly, I think my father is undiagnosed dyslexic. I have a cousin who is dyslexic, but my birth was very traumatic. On an Apgar scale, I pretty much failed. I was blue when I was born. And my mother, to this day, regrets not having a C-section because I was inverted and it was a very hard labor. So it could possibly be a combined factor of genetic for me and the traumatic birth. So dyslexia is not known if it's genetic, again, or caused at birth. Number 3, why are you so different from everybody else? Is it because of the dyslexia? Dyslexia does not dictate my personality. I don't understand why people think somebody with a learning disability acts different because they have a learning disability, but my dyslexia does not make me who I am or dictate what I like or like to do. My personality was created from my own surroundings and my upbringing. Yeah, I'm not this atypical girly girl, but I do like to dress up. I like to play video games, but at the same time, I do like to get my nails done, and I do like to do my own makeup. But dyslexia has nothing to do with that. My tomboyish nature is because I have a little brother. And growing up, we are still the best of friends, and we used to roughhouse. And I never was one to play with Barbies or dolls growing up. I still am not. I don't like dolls. They kind of creep me out, other than a few I have around my house for sentimental reason. One being from my father's mother and one being from my mother's mother, who both passed away. I don't really do a lot of girly girl things. I don't like girly movies. I go see superhero movies. I don't like to get my hair done in a way, like my hair, I try to make it look really nice, but at the same time, I'm not a person who focuses 4 hours a day on their hair or on their makeup. I try my best, and if it looks good to me, I'm fine with it. I don't care if I don't look exactly like the girls in the magazines. Now, that has nothing to do with my learning disability. Number 2. This is one my mom says to me constantly. Why aren't you using voice-to-text software? Well, very simple. It annoys me to no end, because half the time when I say something, it comes out completely different. Take, for example, I texted my dad a few hours back because I thought I was having an allergic reaction to something, and I had said something along the lines of, I use this for the last 2 years, and the voice-to-text Siri put it as, I use this for the last 2 years. So it annoys me because then I have to take the extra step and go back and delete it and then fix it and then send it again. And it just irks me that the voice-to-text programs aren't the way they should be. And yeah, I do use Dragon and I do use Siri sometimes when I am texting, but most of the time I just don't like it because I want my independence and I want to feel like I can do things on my own. But I sometimes do need the help, and I'm very stubborn about this, so I think it's more for me being stubborn that I don't like hearing that than anything else. Now the last one. This is what I really struggled with in school, was when people noticed that I got extended time on things, and I'd get this comment all the time. Why do you get extra time when I don't? Or, this project is so hard, I can't do it. Okay, I get extended time because I need it. I need the time to be able to process. It takes me a little bit longer to process compared to a normal person. With that being said, the extended time does not give me an advantage. It makes me even to everybody else. And because I need to be able to become even with everybody else, to have the same learning experience as every other kid, it's an even playing field. You wouldn't tell a kid in a wheelchair you have to get up and run a mile to graduate high school. The same principle with a learning disability. It may not physically manifest itself, you may not be able to see it, but we still need the help. So saying to somebody who has a 504 because of dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculus, it's not fair, isn't true, because it is fair. It makes it fair for us. The second part, this project is so hard. Why do we have to do it? Irks me even more because it may take you, who is a normal learner, 2 hours to do the project, but it's going to take me 4. And I will work all 4 hours and not complain because I want to be able to prove myself. I've had so many people doubt me throughout my educational career, saying that I can't do something, and I would go out of my way to prove them wrong. So when I hear somebody say, this is so hard, even as a teacher, it annoys me because there are kids who have learning disabilities who I've seen struggle, who I sat with and try to work with them, and they were so willing to work, while other kids who don't have a learning disability just refuse to work. Even in high school, that used to annoy me. And that's my biggest pet peeve being dyslexic, is when people either say, it's unfair I get extra time, or this project is so hard, why are we doing it? Because they play into each other. The time you spend on the project is going to be double for me, and the time you need to take a test is going to be double for me. And I can't help it. I wish I could be normal. I wish I could take a test in the classroom and be done in an hour and a half like everybody else. But I can't. Without failing it or getting a C, I need the extra time. I may need 2 hours or 2.5 hours to finish a test for a class, which always was horrible because I'd have to leave the classroom, go to the testing center, try and finish the test. If I couldn't finish it, then I had to come back another class period or after school to finish it. And then I had to try to explain to my friends why I was doing it. Some of them understood, but some of them didn't. And I got the comment a lot of times, well, it's not fair. And even in our local newspaper, there was a woman who wrote a story about that, saying it wasn't fair that children with learning disabilities got more time because her child felt discriminated against because they were edged out for third place in their school overall for high school graduation, and she felt it was totally unfair and uncalled for. Well, the kid couldn't help it. We can't help that we need extra time. But these are my top 10 things that annoy me that people say about dyslexics. If you have any questions or comments, please leave a comment below, like this video, and please share it. I'd love to see more people ask me about topics I'm going to talk about. I'm still working on the British World War II project I'm going to start producing. It's taken me a little bit longer because I want to get the research done right, and I think it's going to be maybe 3 to 4 parts. Not sure yet, but I'm going to start with the beginning, starting in 1919, and trace it all the way through the beginning of World War II. Well, everybody have a wonderful day. See you later.